Welcome to episode 4 of In Depth with Sifu John. I still don't like the name, but that's okay. We'll change it sometime, Tom. Is that all right?
You fucking came up with the name.
I didn't come up with it. You came up with it.
Yeah, and you said, yeah, great, let's run with it.
Yeah, I changed my mind. Anyway, we're here for episode 4. We've got Darren here, Darren Lam. He's my manager at Fitness First in Chatswood, also a tank of a human being. He's been in the industry for 17 years. Yeah, fitness industry for 17 years. Running one of the, I think it's the third best club in Australia. In Chatswood, which is my town, so of course it's going to be third best at least. But also a martial artist for 26 years. 26 years of martial arts. He's also a great leader, and he'll have a lot of great lessons for the listeners and also for you guys viewing today. So welcome, Darren.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Pleasure.
Great to be here.
For those guys who don't know you, because some of the people that listen will know you from the gym and that, could you give us like the 3 to 5 minute story, like your background story, like an origin story?
Okay, obviously, one of my probably key things I've always been interested in is health and fitness and well-being. Growing up as a kid, in the early 80s, going to high school, and as a half Chinese kid, got a lot of bullying and picked on and things like that. So to combat that, in the early 80s, I took up martial arts. I'd never really looked at that. I always played things like soccer and that sort of stuff. Ended up sort of talking to a friend who said to me, look, there's a martial arts school down there, and I had a few guys who were doing it. So I got on my bike one afternoon and rode down to the local scout hall at the time, just wooden floors, much like this, if you like, nails hanging out everywhere. It was like dangerous, right? And there was all these guys just making lots of noises and kicking and shouting, and I was instantly hooked. So I went home and I said to my mum, I want to get involved with that, and she said, if you want to do it, you've got to pay for it yourself. So I went and got a job, and like my mum was no easy mum.
That's great. Full hustle. She just made you work.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. If there's any person I'm scared of in the world, it's my mum. Right? Like most of our mums.
It's like my mum.
She's tiny, but I'm.
Everyone knows Gilda.
Mate. So I sort of got into that, and I just I learned a lot of lessons through that, and I've had an interesting sort of life and journey in terms of some personal development, whether it's through the martial arts or my other sporting endeavours and things, through work as well. So, I look back on those years pretty fondly, and there's a lot of good stuff to come out of it. Yeah,
awesome. That's great. Okay, so we're both fellow martial artists. What was the type of martial art you did?
So originally, the school that I went down to, it was from Zendo Kai. It was a Bob Jones corporation back in the day. And back in the 80s, Bob Jones was a huge figure in sort of the Australian martial arts scene. And living up on the Central Coast in that Terrigal area, it was a bit of a dog-eat-dog. It's not like the sort of cosmopolitan Terrigal you see these days. It was like gangster town. You sort of went out just waiting to get in a fight back in those days. And
even Chatswood used to do more hardcore 20 years back.
Oh,
nowadays it's like,
So it was really interesting, as I said, as a half Chinese kid, I used to get bullied and picked on at school, and
even more so at Central Coast, because I'm putting it together now. Like in Chatswood, it would have been like you would have been at home, But Central Coast, it makes sense now because it's much more like Aussie there, I suppose.
Yeah, that's it. And living in Terrigal, it's everyone's a surfie, so bleached blonde hair, and he's this sort of half Asian guy. I didn't know anyone at the school I went to, so I sort of found it really tough in those first early days. And, luckily, I was a good athlete, so I could fit in with the sporty group, and I wasn't a bad student as well. So I didn't really have a group that I hung out with. I sort of sat with different people, but I sort of tended to gravitate towards the sporty guys, right, or the jocks or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, sure.
And that's where I sort of ended up.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because I'm also half, because you're half Chinese and half
Australian.
Yeah, similar to me, half Filipino, half Australian Irish. So I know what you mean. It kind of made it that we could float in between. So I know how that is. And interesting, because you're growing up there, that would have brought some struggles because of the ethnicity. But the struggles end up being strengths, which we can talk about later. In my experience, possibly in yours as well.
Yeah.
But how about with the fitness industry? How come you went into that side, Just a bit of context of okay, so we knew you grew up there, you went through martial arts, had a few struggles because of your differences in your ethnicity, and then, why did you end up going into the fitness industry? What happened there?
So when I left school, I decided I really wanted to be a school teacher, and I actually went to university for about a year, and just didn't enjoy it. I just hated it, right? And I wanted to get on with my life, and I felt university was 3 or 4 years that I wasn't enjoying, so why bother? So I dropped out of university.
Which uni was it?
New South Wales University.
Okay,
So ended up getting into hospitality by default because my brother was living in North Sydney at the time, and I needed a job.
Nice.
And he said, "Come and work with me."
Was it like Berry Street or Metropolis?
Yeah, I worked in all of those places.
Really?
Funny enough,
They were like my favourite clubs back in the day.
The Barry family owned that, and
right.
Brendan Barry and all those guys. But
so you used to go to Berry Street and...
I used to work in Berry Street. I used to work in Blueberries. And all those,
sick. That's where I used to go. They're all closed now.
Yeah,
Shout out to all our Berry Street homies out there. Used to go there back in the day.
So I ended up getting into that by default, and because I needed a job, and it was really easy to just do that. So that's what I ended up doing for about 13 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
was it that long in the hospital? Okay.
Yeah, and the reason I got out of the hospitality industry is I had a young family at the time. I was married with a young baby, and I was co-managing a restaurant along the North Shore in Pymble, and one of my managers left because he ended up moving into the DPP, and he said, "If I come back in 6 months' time and you're still here, I'm dragging you out by your hair."
Yeah.
And I thought, look, I've got to get out. I've got to do something
He
different.
probably saw your potential and was like wanting you to move beyond it or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Or,
He said to me, you know, I know you love fitness. Go and do something in the fitness industry.
Okay.
And 15 years ago, the fitness industry was still really evolving as compared to what it is today.
Yeah, true. Now it's really prevalent that you must take care of your body. It's like the thing.
Yeah.
But back, I remember before, you know.
And it was really starting to get into that position where everyone had to get certified, and you know, there was more compliance across the board.
Did you say 17 years ago?
Yeah, 17, 15 years ago.
That's when I think I started at fitness first, but it was space at the time, but then I left and went to Hong Kong. So I'm just piecing it together now. Like,
well, that's it. Yeah. And I ended up taking a couple of weeks off from the restaurant I was working in. I didn't tell them what I was doing, and I went and did this intensive 2-week course, right? It sounds like it's a breeze, but it was 2 weeks, and then there was all this study after it. And that was the basics back then, and that's what I got my Certificate 3, Certificate 4. So I went back to work, and I had to finish these exams. And, shortly after, I ended up with an opportunity to go and talk to someone at Fitness First.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did you enter as a PT or is it sales? Or, so personal training was the first entry point?
Yeah. My first role was a franchisee at the Erina Club up on the Central Coast. I was living up there at the time, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you move down here to?
So what happened?
When did you upgrade?
Yeah.
Just joking. We love the coast.
So I was living up on the Central Coast for quite a few years because I moved back from Sydney back to the Central Coast, up to the Central Coast when I got married and started raising our family, built a house and all that sort of stuff. And then when my marriage broke up many years later, I ended up moving back to Sydney for a while, and then I went back to the Central Coast. So I've sort of gone back and forth, and you know, different relationships sort of positioned me in different areas between Sydney and Central Coast. But I've been here in the Central Coast now for since 2012.
Okay, quite a while now. Okay,
along the North Shore in the Hornsby where I love it.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to flip to another side now because we've got the martial arts experience and the personal development and then business and management and also leadership. There's a few different areas I'd like to touch on just so we can provide some value to the guys listening and watching. What would you say overall from like the martial arts? We'll start there just because I love martial arts. It comes to mind first. What would you say your biggest lessons from martial arts have been, or even the biggest failures, like, because we can learn either way?
I think a couple of really important lessons for me was perseverance, and I became very tenacious in the fact that I never gave up, and never meant no to me. I was really fortunate that when I started martial arts, it really became very natural to me, and when I say natural, I mean I was training, you know, probably 6 or 7 hours a day, you know, 3 or 4 hours before school and then after school, right? Because I was still young. So I really persevered with things that I wasn't good at, and I quickly became good at, and I started rising up through the ranks pretty quickly. But the other thing, I guess, was the discipline side, because you know, I was brought up in a little bit of a, you know, dysfunctional, broken home. Not broken. I mean, I had my mum and dad there, but I was a stepfather, and you know, it was different back in those days. And so I really learned to have that strength and discipline through martial arts. And it taught me probably to not to be settled, but more to focus, I guess.
So like perseverance, discipline, strength, and focus are kind of kind of things you've learned from it. Now, let's say I'm little Timmy sitting at home listening to this. Then how would you advise him to develop perseverance and discipline? Because, you know, it's nice for them to hear that you had it, but how would we give them an advice to develop that? Because discipline is something that people come to me with a lot. They're like, they want to develop discipline. You know, so how do you think you could advise them to do that, or what would be a story that might help?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think for anyone who's lacking any sort of discipline in anything, whatever it is you're pursuing, whether it's academic, sporting, or professional, you need to find a really good mentor. And as I was growing up, I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to find a martial arts instructor, for example, that I looked up to, and I trained with him for most of those times. So for me, having that mentor or someone that I could aspire to be, and taught me the lessons of what discipline meant. And it wasn't just about being strict on myself and standing up straight or things like that. It was about what respect meant, and about knowing how to deliver that respect and things like that. So I think having a mentor, and I've always had mentors in my life, is been key for me. I'm quite an emotional person, so I like to talk things through sometimes, and sometimes I like to bounce that off someone like yourself, for example.
Understand. Good. And so having that mentor, I think you're right, that's definitely a hack, in my opinion, to personal growth. Like, if you want to elevate your own circumstance, get around someone that's kind of like the way you want to be, or other people who are moving that direction, and that will instantly change your circumstances. Like, people who hang around negative people end up being negative.
And they say that you're the sum of the 5 closest people around you, and I quickly learned that I surround myself with successful, ambitious, competitive driven people, and I always use this analogy when I'm talking to people about what does success look like to you, or how come you've been successful, or depending what you define as success. Is that you don't think that Bill Gates is sitting in his office surrounded by a bunch of dummies. He's surrounded by people who are much smarter than him to make him look good, right? And he does that strategically. He's not doing it by coincidence. And I like to think of the same. I surround myself with like-minded people that offer strengths that maybe I don't have, or offer opportunity that I may be looking to utilize as well. So I guess it almost sounds a little bit selfish, but you need to be sometimes a little bit selfish. It is smart. I don't believe in hanging around or being in the company of people who don't think like me. It's a distraction, and they're detractors for you.
That makes sense. And in my opinion, you've got to be selfish to be selfless. Like, if you're not taking care of number one, yourself, if you're not healthy, if you're not moving towards your goals, if you're not happy, how can you help those around you? So I agree with you 1,000,000%. Okay, so on that note, so we'll stick to discipline for a while, because I know that's something that people, especially in the martial arts, people who aren't doing martial arts and people who do martial arts, desire discipline and self-discipline. Apart from having the right mentorship and the people around you, what other things have you found helped you on your journey to really develop that discipline? Because I've seen you at work, you're there early, you finish late, you train well, I mean, you're quite disciplined and dedicated. So what have been another thing, maybe the second and third place around that?
I think you need to challenge yourself and be prepared to make mistakes. I've made many mistakes, and every single day I sort of joke at work, say, I make a mistake every day. I'm just better at covering them up, right? But the thing about making mistakes or, challenging yourself and putting yourself out of that comfort zone, you learn a better way to do it if you're smart. If you don't learn, then you just deserve to be in that situation. So to create that discipline for me, I always challenge myself and push myself out of my comfort zone. And a really good friend of mine said to me a few years ago, he goes, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And once I understood what that meant, it taught me to that level of acceptance was a lot easier, for whether it was disappointment or whether it was an emotional thing, whatever it might have been. So absolutely challenge yourself is a good way to learn what discipline is, because life is not always successful. Sometimes it just goes the wrong way, and you've got to be able to combat that. You can't be wrapped up in cotton wool.
100%. And that definitely makes sense to me. So getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, I like that, because that's where you grow and learn. So keeping yourself in that uncomfortable space, that's good. It reminds me of like Zen koans, where they try to keep you confused. So you're in a state of uncomfortableness in your mind, so you can grow.
And I think removing yourself out of your bubble, and I always, probably over the last few years, a skill, I guess, that I've developed is to have this elevated level of thinking, right? So I think above my current level at work, right? So
Okay.
I'm a club manager at work,
Yep.
but I think what I want to be is
Yep.
whatever level it is. So that's the mentality I take
Okay.
on.
Yep.
When I was a martial artist, from starting off as that
Yep.
white belt, everyone gets
Yep.
that little belt. I
Yep.
wanted to be a black belt. So I didn't train just with the white belts. I
Yep.
made sure I trained with
Okay.
the senior
Okay.
black belts,
Okay.
even though I was getting my
Yep.
butt kicked every day.
Understand? Yeah.
I
Nice.
quickly progressed because
Yeah,
I
got
was
it.
I was
Yeah.
learning skills from those that
Yeah.
these guys just simply weren't learning.
Yeah.
So that elevated level of thinking really puts you in a different mindset because you see things from a very, very different scope. You
Got
remove
it.
yourself from your
Okay.
own bubble.
That's interesting. So you're thinking in an elevated way, and you're even physically putting yourselves in situations where you're training with people who are elevated already.
Absolutely.
So that's cool. And how would you suggest someone to actually move towards that elevated level of thinking? Is that like just projecting to the future, or how do you explain that?
I think you've got to define what your goal is first of
Okay.
all, right?
Yeah.
If it's no use thinking, I'm going to start thinking a bit smarter, but what does that really mean? You know,
Yeah.
what is it you're trying to achieve?
Yeah.
So I'm a very goal-driven person,
Yeah.
and on top of that, I'm an extremely competitive person.
Mhm.
So I know what I want, and
Yeah.
I'm thinking in advance all the time, or I'm thinking about a different level of what would, say, John do in this circumstance,
Yeah.
for example, or what
Okay.
would someone else?
Okay, so taking from different perspectives and thinking about the goals that you have. Okay, yeah, that makes sense because
Yeah.
you're looking ahead as opposed to just from here.
Yeah.
I can vibe with that. It makes a lot of sense. I'm similar. Like when you have a goal, I find, and you know, okay, exactly what it looks like. I was telling you earlier how we want to have that,
Yeah.
the building, the most epic
Yeah.
dojo in the
Yeah,
in the
mad.
world ever. Having that in my mind allows the choices of today to be easier.
Yeah.
Is it taking me towards that? Yes, no. Okay, go towards the.
The thing is this, right, man, with a goal, it's really interesting, right?
Yeah.
If you just say, I don't know, you want to run a marathon, right?
Yeah.
And marathon's 42 Ks, right? For all
Mhm.
those geeks out there, which I'm a massive geek.
Yeah.
But if you want to run a marathon and
Yeah.
you've never run one before, and you
Yeah.
set yourself a year to do it,
Yeah.
in a year time, if you can only still run 20 kilometers, you're 20 kilometers better off than you were a year ago. So
Yeah.
whilst you haven't achieved your goal,
Yeah.
you've achieved something
something.
far greater
Yeah.
than what you ever did. So
Yeah.
I'm a big believer, like I said, in challenging myself to
Yeah.
a level where I just don't know if I'll achieve that.
Yeah.
And I've done that, over the last few years
Yeah.
in a sport of triathlon, which
Yeah.
we can talk about after
Yeah.
my martial arts
Yeah.
sort of
Yeah.
days ended. So.
You did a marathon, like not long ago, right?
Over the last couple of years, I've done 4 half Ironman triathlons.
That's fucking hectic.
Which is a 1.9 kilometre swim,
Yeah.
followed by a 90 kilometre bike ride and a 21 kilometre run, which is a half marathon after you've done all of that.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's it. And then you get to finish. And
Holy crap.
look, by no means am I at the top of that
But
pointy
still,
end of it.
that's fucking crazy. Like none of us fucks could do that.
Yeah.
No.
And I got into that because I suffered a pretty substantial injury towards the end of my martial art days
Yeah.
when I was in my.
So you decided to do an Ironman.
Yeah. So what happened there? Yeah, I actually was doing
Yeah.
some tricking and stuff in martial arts,
Yeah.
and I basically ruptured my Achilles and tore my calf off the bone, more or less.
Ah.
And it took me about 6 months to learn how
Yeah.
to walk, and I just didn't want to
Yeah.
go back to martial arts after
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
I, like I said, challenged myself. I thought to myself,
For those of
"What?"
you thinking to train with me, that doesn't happen here.
and I just thought to myself,
Yeah.
what am I going to do that's going to challenge
Yeah.
myself, and what can I do that's
Yeah.
completely selfish, right?
Yeah.
So I can be successful.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I started looking on the internet, and I came across this sport, triathlon. I knew a little bit about it,
Yeah.
and I thought, you know what, I can swim. I swam as a kid. I can ride a bike.
Yeah.
Piece of piss.
Yeah.
How hard is that? Jump on a bike. Who can't do
I
that?
like your way of thinking.
Yeah,
I would have
and
been
then,
like, nah.
and then I can run. So
Yeah.
I entered my very first triathlon with virtually no training. I got this bike, road bike I'd never really ridden before. And it was an epic fail. I literally almost drowned
Fuck.
during this thing. But I finished the race because I
Oh, wow.
refused to be that guy.
An epic fail, but you finished. Like,
It was an epic fail in the sense that it was probably one of the hardest things I've done. And I've
Yeah.
done many black belt gradings and
yeah.
things like that. And
Yeah.
I got to the end of this
Yeah.
short race, which was about only less than 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I was like spent. I was
Yeah.
about to go home and pass out.
Yeah.
And besides the fact I literally almost drowned, I learned a lot of valuable lessons from that. And
Yeah.
challenging myself and getting out of that comfort zone led me to sort of go, you know what, there's got to be a plan, and I'm about strategy and planning and execution, right, and consistency. So
what would you say the biggest lesson you got from that experience, from the from the, would you call Iron? Is it Ironman?
Well, this event was a triathlon, but it was a sprint one because it was my very first one. I thought, oh yeah, I'll sign up to that. Go on the internet and did it, and turned up. You know, I didn't even have the right shorts and stuff you should wear, and everyone's like kitted out in this really cool gear, and I turn up like literally in a pair of speedos, sort of thing, jump in the water, and the biggest lesson I learned was that first of all, if you don't plan, you're going to fail. Right.
Yeah.
Without a plan, you're going to fail.
Without a plan, you're going to fail.
That's it.
Okay.
So I hadn't planned properly. I had no strategy behind it. I just was going for it. It was balls to the wall from the moment I jumped in the water to the end, no matter what. The second thing I guess I learned is you don't give up no matter what. You know, perseverance is key.
Comes back in from the martial arts training as well. The perseverance is still there.
Because keep in mind, I was out at the Penrith Regatta Centre, so I was in this massive man-made lake. And there's lifeguards to save you. But do you want to be that guy that puts your hand up and says, "Come and grab me," and you know, paddle me over to the shore?
That would be me.
And I was almost there. And I've got this great photo of me doing the first leg of the swim, my first triathlon, and my head's just above the water, and I'm looking towards the shore. And my girlfriend at the time was taking photos of me, and I'm yelling out saying, "I'm fucking drowning," like this, right?
Fuck.
Yeah. So, and she's like, "Just keep going." So
keep going, you pussy.
and I got to the end of the race, and as I said, I was exhausted, but I learned that I need to plan better. But there was no way I was ever giving up.
See, that's fucking great. Like from that experience, you took the lesson that I fucking nearly drowned there. I should have made better plans. Whereas, some people might have given up or just done it again without planning and actually drowned.
And one of my biggest fear is dying is drowning. I do not want to die by drowning.
Yeah, that's like one of mine. Drowning would be like the worst.
Maybe fire is not good either, right?
Yeah, true.
So that perseverance and not giving up and pushing through that pain level I was experiencing was a next level thing. And when you get into an Ironman or a half Ironman event that I did, you can't give up because you're 50 k's out in the bush on a bike, and there's no one there to pick you up and take you back to the starting line if you want to stop. You just
keep going.
You have to keep going.
And how would you suggest to someone who wants to? Because sometimes people they have a goal already and they want to persevere, but they don't. How do you think you could help someone? What was a mindset or a trick or something you did to help you persevere, to help you never give up?
Okay, cool. I've got a really good sort of story around that. And I'll take it back to the triathlon days, for example, right? During the run, which is the final leg of the race, right? It's 21 k's you have to get in there, and I usually get about 5 to 7 k's in there, and my legs start cramping really bad to the point where I can barely run, let alone walk, or walk, let alone run. So what I had to do is I had to break my next goal of finishing the race, just to finish, but now I had to break it down into teeny tiny little steps. So I used to do this. I would be running and I would look up ahead and I'd see a landmark, and it was usually like a telegraph pole, right?
Okay.
Darren, if you get to that telegraph pole, you can walk for 10 seconds, but only 10 seconds because I've got to watch.
Okay.
And I'd get to it and I'm like, reassess myself. No, you're feeling good. Keep going to the next one. And if I felt good, I'd keep going. So I'd break it down literally in 100 meters. Now, if you look at how many 100 meters are in 21 kilometers, there's a lot.
There's a lot
right?
of them,
And my step is under a meter long when I'm striding. So I'm taking 23,000 steps in a half marathon. So I broke it down to literally, you can get to this 100 meters telegraph pole, and then you can stop. But you're not stopping before that, no matter what. You reward yourself with small wins.
Okay, nice. I like that. Rewarding yourself with small wins, and there's something you can actually see in the future. It kind of reminds me of Stephen Covey's book that he released after the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He released, I think it was First Things First. So that's what came to my mind then. It's like you're seeing something there. Let's get to that point first, and then I can reassess. And if I need, that's good. I like that.
And I think part of the problem for people who set goals is there's nothing wrong with setting what we call a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal, a goal that you just don't think you can achieve. And for me, when I did my first half Ironman, I didn't know if I was even going to finish it, but it was a goal that, you know what, I was going to do it. The problem with people sometimes is they set these goals, but they don't have the steps in between to get there.
Yep, okay,
Right? And
understand,
they've got this amazing, great goal
Yep.
of financial wealth or whatever,
Yep.
but they don't know how to
Okay,
get there.
yeah.
They don't use the resources
Yep.
available to them,
Yep.
or they don't seek advice.
Understand? Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think that's, I guess, in terms of success or me
Yep.
achieving some of my
Yep.
goals,
Yep.
I've always looked for the right people to give
Yep.
me the right advice. So
Yep.
I told you that I almost drowned during my first triathlon.
Yep.
So I came back to where I was working at the time, and I did this. I got myself a strength and conditioning coach.
Yep.
I got myself a cycle coach,
Yep.
a swim coach,
Yep.
and I also did a gait analysis or a run analysis at a run
Shit.
center.
Yeah.
So I invested
You
all this
really
time.
fucking
money.
planned
I
after
bought,
that, yeah.
I bought myself a nearly $7,000 bike, and then
Yeah.
spent another $1,000 getting
Yeah.
it fitted to me.
Yeah.
Right. So I planned everything
Yeah.
that could go wrong. I
Yeah.
planned it so it wouldn't go wrong.
Wow.
I didn't only
Yeah.
have a plan A. I had
Yeah.
a plan B and a plan C.
Yeah.
Because when you're throwing up against a fence and Port Macquarie,
Yeah.
one of my Ironmans, you have to have a plan B because you know that plan A wasn't to throw up.
Yeah.
Suddenly you now got to
Yeah.
go to plan B and probably plan C by the end of the race, whether
Yeah.
that's crawling across that line
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah. Nice. Fuck. Failing to plan is planning to fail.
That's what
And
they
then you
say.
took it to the nth degree and went and got yourself 3 different coaches and a new and a running gait check. So okay, that makes
Yeah,
sense. So there you go.
And it's about efficiencies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Make sure you plan then, guys, and you can use that. I like that. How did you put it exactly? So the people that want to develop that discipline, that want to persevere, to just look at the 100 meters ahead. Look at the give them small wins. So
Small
reward
wins.
the small wins.
Yeah.
And put first things first. How else should you put it?
Yeah,
So-
and be grateful for
Yeah.
those wins as well,
Yeah.
because some people beat themselves up about
Okay.
I didn't achieve my goal of getting some money together or
Yeah.
savings or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
But again, if you're in this position starting at level 0 now, and your goal is to get to level 10, if you get to level 8, whilst you've not achieved your goal, you're 8 levels above where you started.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
every time you make a progressive step,
Yeah.
step, appreciate yourself for that,
Yeah.
and learn to love yourself a
Yeah.
bit, and not
Yeah.
beat yourself up because maybe I didn't run a PB that
Yeah,
day
no
or
doubt, yeah.
whatever it
Yeah,
is.
for
you
sure.
know?
No, that definitely makes sense. I agree with that 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Having that gratitude and that self-love, that
Yeah.
it's like extra fuel.
Yeah.
Like, literally that brings out endorphins in your body. So, why not be
Yeah.
grateful rather than beat yourself up? So,
Yeah,
I agree with
100%.
that 1,000,000,000%. Okay, let's take a shift to another side of the things, because we do have people listening who are, either running their own martial arts schools, are entrepreneurs as well. So coming from like the management and leadership side of your experience, what would you say some of the biggest, lessons there you've had?
Patience is one of them.
Okay.
And again, gratitude.
Yeah.
A manager several years ago
Yeah.
said to me, the power of a thank you is
Yeah.
enormous.
Yeah.
Right? And I employ that every day of my life.
Yeah.
So you'll notice when I leave work and if I see you on reception, I'll say, hey, thanks, John, and all those people around me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but the other thing is, like I mentioned, was patience.
Yeah.
I can be impulsive, and I tend to run at a energy and a pace
Yeah.
that some people find difficult to,
Yeah.
to keep up with. And
Yeah,
I
you're
know-
always on. I noticed that.
And even
Like, chill out though. But
people at work say to me, "Man, you are moving fast wherever you go." Right? And one day I looked at my watch, and I usually do between 12 to 15,000 steps a day in that tiny little club. Not tiny, it's it's a decent sized club.
Yeah.
So I've had to learn to be patient, and one thing that I'm never too busy. I'm always busy, but I'm never too busy for people.
Yeah.
The thing I've learned in management and leadership is that everything starts with the people first. Maybe the thing is people drive results.
Yeah.
If you get your people right, and a guy we know, our mate Matt, our former club manager, said to me just the other day, he goes, you can't achieve 100% result unless you have 100% of the people in 100% of the positions to get 100% of the result. So if someone comes to me and they knock on my door, I could be in the middle of neck deep of some analysis, and they say, Darren, can I see you? I always say, drop what I'm doing. I always say, yeah, John, come on in, take a seat, please. Because whilst I may think what they're saying to me is not important to me, it's important to you. So I think the people is the biggest lesson I've learned. If you want to be successful, show that gratitude to your people first.
Okay, good. I like that. So gratitude, patience, but also people first.
Yeah.
That definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
And Matt is a champ. Like we both work with
Man,
Matt.
he's
We
a
should get
legend
Matt
of a
out
guy.
here sometime.
Yeah, he's
Matty,
probably,
we want you next, brother.
he's probably got some good stories.
Yeah. Okay. And can you tell me more about people, like putting people first? Like how is that going to help someone who's either starting a business or is managing a business or is even just is a new intern at a place? How is people going to help them on their path and their growth to their own definition of success?
Yeah, look, and I think it's a really good question. I think, if you're in a startup business or whatever it is you're trying to start up initially, and it might be from ground zero, right, is that people respond to how you treat them, right? And I'm a big believer of integrity and respect. I live and die by my integrity. There's no one that can ever question that integrity because that's how I behave every day of my life.
Yeah.
I think in terms of putting the people first for those first time starters is, put yourself in front of someone, whether you need to use them for a skill they've got, or when I say use, I mean utilize their skill,
for sure.
right?
Yeah, I get it.
Or use a resource they've got. If you treat them with respect and integrity, they're going to reciprocate that back to you. If you're demanding and you turn into a little turd straight away, you're probably going to get a brick wall up. And I probably learned some of those lessons as a manager as I was coming up through the ranks is that people actually respond nicer to you if you're nice back to them. And that sounds like a massive, obvious, revelation, but it's true. And I probably learned that lesson the hard way and was told by one of my mentors that people just don't like you, Darren. And I was shattered to hear that. Yeah. That was years ago, mind you. And that was stopping my career. So from that day, I flipped the switch and I mentally changed how I approached people. So I think that's important to ensure that if you want to be successful and you want to start something up, whether you've got the funds for it or the experience for it is, don't be afraid to acknowledge that, you know what, I actually don't know what I'm doing here, John. I need your help. Can you help me with this? Look, I might not be able to pay you right now, but look, let's talk about something that we can work out, and that gratitude again.
100%. I can't agree more. I think people is the number one thing in growth, in life as well. Because what's life if you haven't got good relationships, good friends, good family? And I value camaraderie and friendship more than I value the financial or the success side, because I mean, you don't want to be successful and die lonely, you know what I mean?
Well, that's it, and their lessons that I've learned is that material factor in life suddenly doesn't mean anything if you don't have those relationships around you. And getting a bit personal on that stuff, but I mean, I much prefer to have good people around me, people I care about, and people say, "Oh yeah, I've got hundreds of friends." I don't. I've got a handful of friends who I count as real friends. I've got plenty of friends on Facebook and all that, but these people are people who I can generally care about. I don't have to talk to them every day to know they're still friends. And I think that sort of level of connection takes time to build, and it takes some maturity to build that as well.
No doubt. I'm similar. I got 6 that are tight and close, and out of the 6 there's one that's new, that's even becoming tight and close, but then I've probably got hundreds of friends outside of that. I still consider them friends, but not tight, so I agree with you on that. If I want to take a jump back, because I think you brought up a really interesting point in regards to leadership. So there was gratitude, being grateful and thankful and appreciating people and what they do, and then people in general, having the right people around and being there for people. But patience, I think it's an undervalued kind of principle in personal growth, because a lot of, especially now in our instant society, everyone wants things now. So I'm glad you brought up patience. Can you talk more about that? Tell me more about what you mean about patience in relationship to your business growth and leadership.
I'm probably one of the most, have been in the past, one of the most impatient people you'll come across. So I get things done fast because I want it done fast, because I don't dawdle around. When you see me, if I'm walking around, I'm walking at pace. If I'm getting something done, I'm doing it at pace. I speak at pace. I remember doing a lot of presenting back in my early days within the fitness industry to groups of personal trainers and doing inductions, and I did this one presentation and no one understood a word I was saying because I was talking too fast. So I had to learn, you need to be patient with yourself. So
even in the moment of presenting.
So I ended up physically slowing my speech down, emphasizing words, pausing for effect, so I could be more patient, so people could listen and understand me better.
Yeah.
My default setting is manic, right?
Yeah.
I'm that nutcase running around. That's my default setting.
Yeah.
But you can modify those behaviors given the audience you're working with, right? In a group situation or in a crisis situation, everyone defaults to their default setting, right?
Yeah.
My one is to take control and to lead and manage. That's how I'm wired, and that's just how I work, right?
Yeah.
But I understand sometimes that that's not always the best way to do it, and I may need John over here, who's great at getting people to follow him out of a fire situation, for example. But I will say to you, John, I need you to do this, right? That's my default setting, and John will go, no worries, John. I'm going to grab all those people because I know how to get people together. So for me, learning patience was about my own self-control, so others could connect better with me.
Okay.
Because I was pushing people away with the energy and pace that I do things at in general.
That's an interesting angle of applying it to your own self in the way that you are interacting with others.
Yeah. Yeah, because you know, in an industry like the fitness industry that I work in, and the roles that I work in as a manager, you can't isolate or polarize people because A, no one likes you, and secondly, no one will do anything for you. And if they are doing it for you, they're doing it because of the title on your shirt. And what I learned was, and you know, this is my lessons through leadership, is that those levels of servanthood. Do you know what I mean by the servanthood?
Yeah, definitely.
So you know, people do things for you initially because of because they have to. They secondly do it because they want to. Then the third one might be they do it because of what you've done for the organisation. Fourth one is they do it because of what you've done for them. And the fifth one is they do it because of what you represent. So my brand, if you like, is about I represent this certain brand, and the brand is about caring for my people. You know, showing that gratitude, development, coaching, and even when I lose the plot at my people, it comes from the right place. They know that I'm not just being an asshole to them. Being patient in things is really important.
I really like that levels of servanthood, because I mean the one thing that comes to my mind is that I truly believe that leaders serve their people. I mean, like if you're the manager or the leader or a CEO of any company or country or whatever, it's about serving everyone that works with you or beneath you, so to speak.
I 100% agree, man. And a leader is there just to facilitate process and grow people. The leader's not there to take the accolades for all of the good work that other people do that make them look good. I like to think of myself as a good leader. I haven't always been, though. I've been a great manager and I've been a bad manager, but I'm a much better leader than I am a manager, I think.
There you go. That makes sense. One sec. How much time we got? How long we been going for, team?
You can keep going if you want.
Okay, cool. How long we been going for? Just so I know.
I'll tell you.
Okay, cool. One sec.
38.
I like that levels of servanthood.
38 minutes.
Okay, cool. We've got time then. Levels of servanthood. I really like that. Now, I want to flip back to another part, if that's okay. I bounce around a bit, but that's fine.
That's how my brain works too.
That's it. Back to martial arts. It's okay.
Yeah.
What would you say? I know you were saying that you learned about never giving up, perseverance,
discipline,
and also discipline. Have you got any interesting stories, from your martial arts days, either funny or interesting, or something that might provide some value to the guys out there that do martial arts? Because a lot of the listeners are into martial arts and meditation as well. So, is there anything interesting that you could share with them?
Look, I sort of think back to one of my black belt gradings, right? And for this particular grading, what my instructors or senseis wanted from every single black belt is that you had to write the week before, you had to present an essay to them on why you believe you should be a black belt. You could say whatever you like. It could be say because I deserve it and I'm a legend. Because
I'll bash you.
Not likely for these guys. And the other thing, so I wrote this essay about I guess how I've trained so hard and how I've how I'm great at the katas and all the different things like that. So I put this essay forward, and then we have our grading, right? And as a black belt in this, the style I was doing at the time is your grading starts from the very start of everyone else's grading of the day, right?
Okay.
And it's usually about 9 o'clock in the morning when all the white belts come in going for their next little belt or whatever the grade is. But you are grading with the white belts, so you're doing all of the routines, katas.
Oh, wow. So you've got to grade every single grade. Every
single grade,
Fun.
yeah. So you grade every grade again to black belt, and then when you get to your black belt grading at the very end of the day, usually you're shattered, right?
Yeah,
and I remember one of these gradings. It was one of my first day gradings. Is they did 20 rounds of sparring, but every partner was fresh. I got a fresh partner, and it was full contact, right?
Yeah.
So, and in between those 20 rounds, you did 2 rounds of grappling.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
So it was.
Full on.
2 minutes of grappling, I should say,
Yeah.
not 2 rounds. So it was full on. So I'm getting beat to an absolute pulp. My forearms are bruised from blocking kicks and blows from every grade above me, every grade below me, and it was brutal.
You become a punching bag, basically.
Oh yeah, I was a punching bag, man.
A moving punching bag. Yeah.
So I think, I got to the end of it. I took a second gi top because I knew I was probably going to throw up on myself, and I remember standing there, between rounds. Absolutely spent, holding my gi top open because I was about to throw up into it, and I'm looking into the crowd, and I didn't have anyone there supporting me. It was just me, right? And I did this grade, and I got to the end of it, and I remember, the instructors, they came out, it makes me emotional. They come up to me and they go, "Man, that's one of the best gradings we've ever seen." It was sensational. And at the end of it, they give you, they take your belt off and they give you a new belt, and they got my belt, and it's got my name down it on the here printed, and then it's got, it's got in Chinese characters the name of the martial art. Then it's got your little band for your first dan on, and so it's a real ceremony, right? And you're super humble. And then at the end of that, we had to pledge this little black belt code, if you like. What that taught me, mate, was was hard work pays off for a start. The other thing it taught me was absolute gratitude, because it's difficult for me to remember a time in my life that I've been so happy in achieving something. Because I'm standing there, and I've got this great photo at home where I'm standing there, I'm beat up, I'm bloody, and I'm saying this oath, and it was just a really good moment. You can see I get a bit emotional about it.
Sure.
It's really cool, and it just taught me that things just don't happen easily, and that gratitude is just amazing, and that sense of accomplishment was just so great that day. So people coming into martial arts, I guess, to answer your question is, you will get there and appreciate those moments, and allow yourself to appreciate those moments, and it might be hard, but nothing worth doing is ever easy. And I would rather do it the hard way than do it the easy way.
100%. Otherwise, everyone would have a black belt, wouldn't they?
Everyone would have a black belt.
That's
You know what? And my aim was never to have a black belt when I started. It's just that's what they give you.
That's what happens once you progress up to that level.
And I wore it with pride, and I had all the different coloured gi tops, and I had my black belt, and I had the big hakama thing, the big split skirt thing, and man, I used to treat that thing with absolute pride. At the end of the night, I'd fold it up, I'd put it into my cupboard after I washed it. I'd get my belt. My belt never lay on the ground. That's disrespectful, and it was a really, really proud moment for me,
awesome.
mate. A sense of accomplishment.
It's like applying gratitude and appreciation on the journey of becoming a black belt, becoming an accomplished martial artist, and applying the hard work on the way. That's awesome, man. I can understand that sense of achievement. Like I had that when I achieved mastery in Wing Chun. There was a real, dedicated, what is it now? 20 years to Kung Fu in itself, but martial arts. So I know how you feel on that.
And that sense of pride in achieving that, it just makes you really emotional, because you think back on those sorts of days, and I was that particular day. I think that was in 2007, I think, right? So let's say 11 years ago that I did that, and then we had our subsequent gradings and stuff like that. But it's just one of those proudest moments. Probably you know, the only thing that sort of equals that in terms of pride is the birth of my son.
Yeah,
right?
I know what you mean. There is a big level of achievement. No, I think I can agree.
Yeah.
Having Noah born first, it's like, wow, it's like such a emotional moment, and then also reaching a high level of mastery, which you've dedicated so much time of your life.
Oh my God, yeah.
I like that. It's coming to my mind in the way of like, because a lot of people want to achieve a high level of mastery of themselves, mind, body, and spirit. You know,
Yeah.
so that they feel like a lot of people that come here or even will come to the gym even want to master themselves, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, or whatever it is. I think remembering that, you know, every master was once a beginner. You know,
That's
you know,
right.
or every black belt started as a white belt. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And having that patience and that gratitude along the way to put in the hard work and the hustle is going to be rewarding, as it has been for us.
Yeah. Man, I don't know if you've ever seen this amongst, you know, your teachers as well, is that my old instructor, a guy by the name of Gary, right? And he used to have this black belt.
Yeah.
And over the years, his black belt became grey. Then over the years, that black belt became white, because it was so well
used,
worn and everything. And you know, they just say a black belt is just an experienced white belt sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
But it was funny that circle of life.
Yeah.
As you said, they start off as a white belt.
But
Then this black belt suddenly started getting old and tattered, and I said to him one day, why don't you change that thing? You know, like, it must be 30 years old. He goes, that's exactly why I don't change it, because one day this is going to be white and it's going to take me back to the roots.
Yeah.
It was just
That's beautiful. That's a really good analogy. Yeah. And I think it actually reminds me of something I was talking about today, because someone asked me a question about meditation, and I don't remember how I got to it, but it was like trying to keep that beginner's mindset whilst having such experience, you know, because you're a black belt and I'm also, you know, black belt or a master in my system. It can be easy to be like, okay, I know what to do now, you know, and straight away, as soon as you know, you kind of, your cup's full. So kind of trying to keep that cup empty, proverbial empty cup, you know, keeping, like what Gary said to my black belt is white. It's going back to keep that white belt, that beginner mindset, I think is essential to growth. You know?
And you know, and probably like you, man, you probably watch a lot of their content on YouTube and stuff, and you see a lot of these experts, and I sit there and I sort of look at these guys and just go, I just wonder how they got to where they were, because what they're doing, in my opinion, is, you know, it's a humble opinion, is that they're not there for the art, they're not there for the expression, they're there for the gratification of recognition. And I don't know about you, but for me, I was never there for recognition. I went there to learn to fight, to protect myself, right? It just so happened that I became...
get beat up by the Aussies in the coast.
All those surfies hitting me over.
Surfboards.
But, you know, I sort of look at those people and, you know, they've got their belts on, their different red belts and all this sort of stuff. And I'm just like, you know what, you've sort of removed yourself from the true art of what martial arts is about. You've sort of just become a publicity machine, and I just sort of think
I know what you mean. I get it. I think there are a lot of, let's say, people that don't represent the martial arts in the best possible way. If I'm going to be, you know, nice about it. Dickheads, basically. I mean, no, jokes. No, you're not a dickhead. But anyway, what I'm getting is, like, for me personally, martial arts is about perseverance. It is about discipline. Is it about self-discovery? And, you know, even for me, it's a way of non-violence, the way I look at it, at least. But there are many martial artists out there just painting it as a, you know, let's be mad, you know, let's be up there and let's be, you know, big egos or even violent, you know. Like, I personally, to your point, I personally avoided social for pretty much my whole life. I did go on it a little bit when it first came out. I never really used it. I used it that much. Like, I went off it completely up until a year ago. Until I realized, okay, I want to get out the martial arts and the meditative and the spiritual practices I've learned, and it's easy to scale it now.
But that's a selfless promotion of you, in terms of you're spreading a great message and some great skills, whereas other people that I was talking about tend to be self-promoting of just themselves. And I guess, you know, about a month ago I did a presentation to our group of sales people.
Yep.
And there was about 40 odd people in the room, and I gave this presentation, funny enough, on goal setting, and I opened up and I talked about the injury that I'd suffered in a sport that I'd done for 25 plus years, but I didn't go into what that sport was. I didn't say, I was a martial artist, I did black belt, and I was sort of, I guess, trying to keep it humble. But after it, funny enough, is that I had a whole bunch of people tap me on the shoulder and go, Darren, you never told us what that sport was. And how come you didn't do that? And I said, look, it was martial arts. They go, how long did you do it for? I said, 25 plus years.
25 years?
That's a long time. They said, you should be talking about that. I said, but to me, that's not the important message here. It's just I'd done that sport, and I didn't want to advertise that because it was sort of in my past. And you and I were talking about this, I think, last week. Is you should talk about it more, Darren. It's like, I sort of put it behind. I'm not that self-promoter. I'm a little bit more humble in that regard because whilst I've done martial arts for a long time, and I think it's within my DNA now. It's not something I talk about because I no longer do it, and unlike you, you're a Sifu, you're teaching others, and I've sort of put that part of myself behind, and I haven't. I guess I did it intentionally, but there's certainly no regret there either.
Do you miss it at all at the moment?
I do, man. I do. I've like I said, it's in my DNA. I'm always really interested to see what's actually happening in the martial arts world. I still follow people, and I love those sorts of action movies, and I love seeing
you seem
that.
to be applying the principles of it into life, because applying the perseverance, applying the discipline, applying the gratitude that you got from it, and the sense of accomplishment,
I wouldn't be
and
where
the people
I am
around you.
I wouldn't be that guy, to be honest. And
literally everything you've said about martial arts, you can see it in your business and leadership life. I mean, just knowing it now from what we've spoken about.
And I do miss it, and like I said, I wouldn't be the person I am without it, because maybe that bullying could have continued on, and maybe I became an introverted type of person or whatever it was, or I didn't have the confidence that I have now, and I guess that confidence grew through my ability to protect myself, and also that I guess I gained a bit of respect amongst my peers as I was growing up. That this guy's a great athlete, if you like, in the loose terms of an athlete. And I think, man, that probably helped me shape who I am today.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. I know what you mean. To your point just before, you were saying how the confidence that you do get from it. Like, I definitely have seen that in students that I've taught. They become more and more confident, and even myself, the better I've got in martial arts, the less I have fear, because I just don't give a shit. Like, I mean, if I get in a fight, I'm like, okay, it'll be fun. Whereas when I first started out, like, I'd get nervous around that type of combat or interaction. But now it's like, oh, sweet, I'll learn something.
And isn't it funny, as the more mature and experienced you become, the less you want to fight.
100%. The less you do.
I'll avoid physical combat or conflict at all costs.
Literally. I agree.
I'm pretty sure I'm still able to perhaps handle myself, but if I don't have to. But in the past, when I was younger, firstly, all I would do was go out and kick ass, and I had to.
Unleash.
That's the same. So I was getting beaten up.
What, you look at me?
And I remember, back in my younger days, when we were talking earlier before we got on, was that, when I used to live in, back in the party days, I call it, is I'd be just standing out at a bar, right? I'd just be having a drink, and someone would come and go, mate, what's your problem? And I'm like, nothing's my problem. They go, you've got a problem, you're looking at me funny. And people would just want to fight me just because I seem to look a certain way. And I used to just avoid it at all costs, because I'm thinking, man, I'm not into that. I don't buy into that bullshit anymore.
I was that later on, but at the beginning I used to, okay, and then I used to fight them. I used to be like, all right, let's
crack
fight.
Skulls.
But coming, like, the last 3 fights I've had, I've let them hit me. I think I must have still had that violent vibe about me or something, because I attracted it. But the first one was in a club. I think it was in Berry Street, actually. And the guy was going.
It wasn't me, was it?
No. And the guy was coming towards me. He went to throw a punch, so I just put my head down. He punched my head, and then he walked off. He was like, and that was it. And then another one, a guy slapped me, and this was, where was that?
Well, he wasn't wearing your dress, was he?
And I just was like,
you weren't in Oxford Street, were you?
Dressed up, partying. And then the last one, this is why I've decided that I wouldn't let people hit me anymore. I was in Hong Kong. Long story short, a guy was off his head.
Man
and
from Hong Kong.
That's it. And he went to hit me, and I was just like, here it comes. I saw it coming. I just wore it on my face, And then I was like, fuck, I'm not going to help you now, because I was going to help the guy. But I'd already decided I didn't want to be violent anymore. I didn't want to fight. And as I was walking off, so this, and my jaw was broken.
Oh.
So yeah, he'd taken a big swing and broke my jaw, and I was like, okay, non-violence is the way, but you still got to protect yourself, you idiot. Because I like, it had happened already 2 times that didn't affect me. But what I'm getting at is, yes, the more you progress, the less you actually do want to fight. To the point where I'd rather get punched in the face than hurt another person.
Yeah.
You know?
And I always found in training it was those most inexperienced, students that hurt you the most. Did you find that?
Yeah.
I've probably been put on my ass more times by a white belt than I have by a black belt.
Yeah, overzealous beginners.
And you're sort of trying to
be,
go soft on them and not, hurt them. And then suddenly they just throw something out wild, and you're on your back and you're like, all right, now it's time to probably give the respect even to that new person.
No, totally get it. Either they have the lack of self-control because they're new, or they're just wanting to prove themselves. I totally get that. I want to take a step back as well, because you said something interesting before. You were doing a presentation and teaching some sales guys about goal setting. I mean, that's something that I think pretty much everyone has in life, that they want to achieve a certain goal, whether that's financially, career-wise, emotionally, relationship-wise. What would be your tips on goal setting? Because I know you're a guy that is very goal-driven, has achieved pretty much all the goals you've wanted in your life. So what would be your tips for the listeners and the watchers, the viewers, on goal setting? Yeah,
I guess a little bit to echo what I said a bit earlier is first identify what that goal is. It's no use chasing something. The second thing is think big. Think beyond what you think you're capable of, right? And like I said,
so
if
know
your goal,
what it is, think big.
Think big. If your goal is to save $10,000 and you only save $5,000, well, you're $5,000 better off. So is that a bad thing?
50,000.
So think of your goal. Think big. Plan, but don't plan. You need to plan big, but you need to break that plan down into small, measurable bits. They talk about those SMART goals, right? And you need to have people around you that can facilitate that goal or that plan. But probably one of the biggest things is you need to have plan B and probably plan C. And
what do you mean by that, by the plan B and plan C?
So we know life isn't a bed of roses, right? It doesn't just happen, right? It does. I'm sure when you set up this dojo, it didn't come together easily, right?
I looked at maybe close to 50 different places.
So you had a plan A to Z, really, right? You were prepared to, but you knew what you wanted, right?
I'm
so
about
you didn't take the
I'm
first.
seeing it apply to this journey here.
You didn't take the first dojo or the first space you looked at. You were prepared to only settle for what you wanted, right? So my idea about having your goal, identifying that is, know what that is first of all. Put yourself with people around you, plan it, but don't settle for less. Just if you all plan, like my plan when I wanted to do an Ironman, if I said to myself, I'm going to do an Ironman, or I told a friend, said, John, I'm going to do an Ironman, and you said to me, oh no, man, you can never do that. Just start off with the little ones. If I allow myself to listen to you and put that self-doubt in me, I might just settle for a smaller, shorter race. But I thought to myself, I'm going to put myself out there and do an Ironman. And I told people this, and they're just like, man, you're an idiot. You're nuts. Why would you do that? I told my mum, she goes, Darren, you're too old. I said, Mum, I'm in my early 40s. Why can't I do this? I can easily do this. So don't be discouraged by the non-believers, if you like. And you run your own race, but you surround yourself with the resources and tools and equipment and knowledge of others who maybe have done it or can give you the skills to achieve that goal.
Okay, sick. That's a really good tip. So know what you want, aim big, have the plan B and plan C, the things that you're going to support that goal. Don't settle for less, and surround yourself with the people and the resources to get you to that. Sounds like a fucking great battle plan.
Look, it is, man, and it's worked for me, at least the things I've done, and I don't always succeed. I failed a lot, as I said.
Actually, that is something I wanted to come back to. Failure. Because you're saying failed a lot, and I truly believe, because I've had a lot of failures as well, and to be honest, the biggest failures in my life have brought me the biggest growth. Like
Yeah.
literally the biggest painful parts of my life have brought me the most growth. Like,
Yeah.
you know, with my recent separation from my wife and then my father passing away 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
that was super painful experiences,
Oh, yeah.
but I feel like they've strengthened me to become like an even stronger emotional ninja
Yeah.
than I have ever been.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. I know that might sound
Yeah,
weird, but that's
yeah.
literally how I feel. So tell me a bit about that, because I know you said you failed a lot as well. How has failure been helping in your pathway?
Yeah, look, I'm someone that doesn't deal with failure well, but also deals with it exceptionally well.
Yeah.
Now that makes absolutely no sense,
Yeah, it
and,
makes
and
sense
let
to
me
me.
let me
Yeah.
tell you what I mean
Yeah.
by that. Right, I take failure very, very personally,
Yeah.
because I feel I've let myself down,
Yeah.
and sometimes I've possibly let someone else down.
Yeah.
Right, so if you're, say, my Sifu, for example,
Yeah.
and I'm training with you for a grade or whatever it might be, and I don't perform that to my expectations, or we didn't achieve that result, I've not only let myself down, the worst thing is I've let someone down who expected something of me. So I take it very, very personally.
Mhm.
But and it can take me a long time to get over it. But what I've learned is that self-love, if you like, or that gratitude, and allowing yourself to fail and make mistakes.
Yeah.
So what I've learned to do is that reassess and reevaluate and figure out why you failed. But don't do it on your own. Ask people, I was trying to do this, I didn't get there. What did you see some of the mistakes I made, or what could I have done better, right? And I take feedback on exceptionally well, but I want to be told exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I don't want to be told some bullshit story
Yeah.
around,
Yeah.
you know, look, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So once I receive that feedback, I create a plan.
Yeah, okay.
And I create
Yeah.
a plan B.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
But I proactively, I drive my own destiny,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if that feedback is, Darren, you know what, you just didn't do that kick well enough,
Yeah.
or Darren, you didn't do that whatever well enough, I will modify my behavior,
Yeah.
my skill set, or whatever
Yeah.
it is
Yeah.
to get that. So failure to
Yeah,
me,
yeah, yeah.
I have this saying,
Yeah.
coming second is the first last. Coming second is the first last.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
If you're not first,
Yeah.
what are you? You're the first last.
Yeah,
Is that
okay.
right?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I have that saying, coming second is the first last.
Mm-hmm.
And whilst I don't always win, you know what? I rarely win, if you like.
Yeah.
But if I'm going to come second, I'm not going to accept that. I'm
Yeah.
going to do what I
Yeah.
can to be better.
Okay.
So I get that feedback
It
on.
takes courage to get that feedback as well, because
It's brutal.
no one wants to hear how they fucked up, or how they
Yeah.
weren't good, or how they
Yeah.
missed out, or what they did wrong.
Do you remember I told you, when we were talking earlier, that one of my managers told me that no one likes you? Do you remember I said that just a little bit earlier? And I'll tell you what it was, right? You keen to hear about it, yeah? Is that when I was a PT manager, I wanted to achieve a next level of management, which was like a little regional role and everything. And I missed out on this particular promotion this time. And a really good friend of mine, Mick, who's a mentor of mine, and I speak to him regularly, he's a really cool guy, very insightful, but like yourself, you know, he just has a different way of thinking. And anyway, he came to my club this day and he had to tell me that I wasn't getting this job. And I blew up. I'm like, what do you mean? And I lost my mind, and I blamed him. You don't want to give me the job, you know, I've been working hard, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, Darren, you want to know why you didn't get this job? Yeah, I said, yeah. He said, no one likes you who works with you. And I was gutted.
Yeah.
And it was probably one of the hardest feedback I've ever heard. And I'm like, what do you mean no one likes me? He goes, the people you manage right now don't have good things to say about you because you're an asshole. You're too hard on them. And for you to succeed, for you to ever get anywhere in life, you've got to understand that you need to work with people rather than against them. And you can't treat people the way you currently treat people. So when he told me this, I literally flipped a switch and came in the next day. And I learned to be nice to people. And I learned to say thank you and things like that. And the funny thing is, mate, we had to jump on a conference call that very next morning. What I didn't know was, and I was running this call, what I didn't know was that Mick was on the other end of one of my guys I was managing. And they all said, oh, Daz, you know, how did you go with that role you're looking for? And I said, I didn't get it, guys. And they go, man, you must be gutted. And I said, yeah, you know what, guys, I am gutted. But, you know, let me just talk to you about a couple of things that, you know, I've learned from this and what I'm going to do and what I'm going to plan and how I need your support to do it because I can't do this on my own. And I later caught up with Mick, you know, like a week later, and he said, you probably don't know this, Daz, but I was on that call. And I'm like, oh, really? And he goes, yeah, but you know what? The way you handled it and your professionalism, your ability to flip that switch, I've never seen before. And he goes, that's a real strength, and it takes a lot of courage to do that.
Yeah, 100% it does. That's why I pointed it out, because being able to take a point, look at yourself with self-awareness and be like, okay, fuck, I fucked up in this X, Y, Z way, and then to be able to recorrect, it takes courage. No one wants to look at the dark side of their personality.
And for someone to say to you, John, no one likes you, when you think everyone does,
that's heavy.
Oh, it was brutal feedback, and that's exactly what he said. He just looked at me and I said,
that's probably some of the best feedback you've had, though, if you think about it, in the sense that it made you, you know.
Well, it was a game changer for me. I, again, probably need to thank him a lot more than I ever do, because really, had I not received that feedback, I potentially could have gone down the path of this really, you know,
maybe more of the same,
and not learnt the lessons of how to be a better leader, because I was known as a manager who just slaughtered people. That's what my reputation was. If you want stuff done, get Daz to do it, and he will get it done. But he will steamroll everyone in front of him. And that's effective.
That'll get shit done, but it won't.
Everyone will hate you.
It won't build you as a person.
And everyone
to
was
grow higher.
Exactly. People were scared of me. They didn't want to talk to me. They didn't trust me because they didn't want to, you know, say, "Oh, Darren, I've got this problem. I can't do this," because I was just whacking them over the head. And when he told me all of this, when he explained why people don't like me, you know, it wasn't that people hated me. It was just they didn't like working for me.
Your management style was too abrupt, perhaps.
It wasn't too abrupt. It was just
super
brutal.
abrupt.
It was
brutal, straight up.
And it wasn't effective. And that's when I learned to flick a switch from that very, very day, and I'll never forget it. And we went for a walk through the shopping centre. It was just up at Hornsby where I live. I was working in that club there. We went for a walk, and I was really upset. You know, I was emotional that this guy who I trusted had just said these really harsh words to me. And I just sort of thought, after a while, you know, I go away and I think about things, and I'm like, you know what? As much as that hurts, that's the truth. And I needed to hear that. And sometimes people don't surround themselves with people who are willing to tell the truth. And people like to blow smoke up each other's ass, man. You know, if I didn't like you, I would tell you. If you fuck something up, I'm going to tell you, because if I don't tell you, maybe you don't have those people around you. And I know you've got a good group of people around you. And another good example of that is, you know, when I came to Chatswood, I was just like a whirlwind of, you know, fire in that place, right? Trying to get everything done.
Feel your drive, trying to really move it forward.
And Will, you know, our PT manager, we had this discussion one day, and he just goes, "Mate, you move at an energy that is impossible to keep up with." So I said to him that day, I said, "Man, I need you to do something for me." He said, "What is that?" And I said, "Man, I need you to check me." He goes, what do you mean? You want me to kick you in the leg or something? I said, "No, man, I don't want you to kick me." I said, "I need you to check me." And what I mean by that is, if you feel or see a behavior in me that is that energy that you find hard, I need you to pull me aside and tell me, cool it for a minute. Because I may not have that self-awareness in that moment to check myself. So I've given him the permission. So if he does see it, he's one of those guys, you know, probably like yourself, right? If you see something, say to me, "Hey, you know, chill out, man. You're out of control." And that's my default personality. To take control, manage, and lead.
For sure. That's, wow. That brings so many ideas and great, like, I like I'm just going to bring it to that kind of radical candor, that straight up honesty that Mick brought to the table, kind of fed back onto you to get more self-awareness around yourself, made you be more honest with yourself so that you could grow as a leader. What a fucking great story, man. Jesus. And I suppose that really stems from that radical truth, and because it would have taken him courage as well to be able to say that too.
And he knew that I was going to blow up. He even said, he goes, "I knew what your reaction was going to be. That's why I closed the door to your office. I locked it, and we didn't do it in a cafe." He goes, "I know how you were going to react." And I wasn't just blowing up. I was standing up out of my chair, like throwing stuff around the office. And he was just like, I lost my mind because I was so disappointed. But he also said to me, which was another interesting thing, which I still apply to this day. is that he goes, "I'm glad you're upset."
Yeah.
And I said, "What do you mean you're glad I'm upset, you asshole? You know, you just let me down. You're like, why would you be glad? You selfish prick, you know."
Yeah.
And he said to me, "It shows me you care.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
glad.
true.
I'm glad you are upset because if
You
you
really
weren't
fucking
upset,
wanted it, yeah.
I'd be more worried."
Yeah.
The fact that you've lost your mind
Yeah.
tells me you care.
How much you actually want to
Yeah.
grow in that role.
Yeah.
Wow, fuck, that was a great story, man.
Thank
I
you.
think you know, having the courage to look at yourself, having the smarts to actually surround yourself with people that will give you the feedback,
Yeah.
and even asking people to give you feedback around yourself, around things that you know that might be perceived as a weakness or something that will hold you back. That's great.
But do you know what, no, man?
That's like that's sorry to jump in.
Yeah.
That's like encouraging self-awareness from others around you. Like that's clever.
Yeah,
I like
and
that.
But you've got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah.
Don't ask someone to say something to you unless you're willing to listen. Because don't ask for feedback unless you are open to it. Don't ask someone to check you unless you're prepared to. Don't get angry at them. Is what I'm saying. Is they're doing the job you've asked them to do.
Yeah.
Right. If you want feedback, be willing to accept it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But not accept it, but do something
Think
with
about it. Yeah, 100%. Fuck, I really enjoyed that story. I mean, I feel that the lesson. I mean, for me, the essence of that is self-awareness, surrounding yourself with the right people, and also radical honesty, like really radical candor, like, and having the courage to do that. Meaning, you know, you being honest with yourself, but also Mick or Rick, Mick, being radically honest with you, because look at the change and the growth that eventuated from that. You know, they always say the truth always wins, or you can't hide. No, is it? There's three things you can't hide: the sun, the moon, and the truth. And that truth sprouted your growth in your professional career as a leader. So that's fucking epic.
And that's a principle I've applied throughout my career since that day. Is that I want people to tell me if I'm doing well or if I'm not doing well, or how I can improve something. And even what was it, about 4 years ago, I embarked on this journey to evolve my skills as a manager and as a leader in our business. And I went to the HR people in our business, and I said, I want to do a 360-degree feedback. And for those that don't know what that is, it's basically in our business. It's about putting together set questions that you send out to your peers, right? So. But you can't just send them out to all your favourite people who are going to talk great shit about you. You want to send it to people who are going to be honest, right? So these questions are usually run by businesses and companies who specialise in human behaviour, if you like, right? So I said, I want to do this 360-degree feedback. They said, that's fantastic because you obviously want to develop. I said, man, of course I am. Like, this is why I'm doing it. So they put together this, like a booklet, right? And it was like, I think it was, about 30 or 40 questions. And it was about things like, do you think Darren's a good manager? Is there something Darren can improve on? And so they're really honest questions. So I sent it out to 21 people, right? And I sent it out to people who have worked with me for a long time, who directly reported to me. I sent it out to all of the managers who directly reported to me additionally. I sent it out to people who were levels above me, who I wanted to be in their level. So I sent it out, and including my state team and my managers as well. So this feedback comes back, and they present it in this beautiful, great book, and it's got all details around human behaviour and profiling and stuff like that. And it goes on different scales, right? And I asked for this because I wanted to know really what people thought about me, and honestly, some of it was absolutely brutal. It was, there was some really low opinions of me, and this was only 4, maybe 5 years ago. But there was also, the interesting thing is that, and I talked about this just recently actually, is that the people who work really close with me had amazing things to say about me in terms of how I'm a great manager, a good friend and leader, and all that sort of stuff, right? But the people who didn't work with me on a regular basis, who knew me but didn't work with me, weren't as positive. It wasn't bad, some of it was brutal, but it wasn't as good as for those people. So what that told me is that the people who I'm in direct influence of, that group around me, love me, and I can influence them positively. So what I need to do is I need to expand my skill of influence above my level,
Yeah.
right? To a circle that it's like dropping a pebble in a pond. It ripples
try and
out.
get the
What I'd done
exoteric
is I
circles
dropped
going
a
as well.
pebble in a pond,
Yeah.
but I'd put up barriers halfway to the edges
Yeah.
of the pool.
Yeah.
So I removed those barriers and let those ripples flow out.
Let the
of
reach flow out. Yeah, that makes sense.
So those people on the edge who were my managers
Mm.
started to learn and hear more about me in a much more positive
Yeah.
way, about
Okay.
how I was influencing
Yeah.
others and changing,
Yeah, yeah.
and eventually tried to rebuild
Yeah.
that brand.
Yeah.
But it took some courage to ask for that brutal
Yeah, for
feedback.
that feedback, yeah,
and,
for sure.
And people are more than willing to shit can you at any time.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so that's just another story,
Okay.
I guess, on my self-discovery and journey.
Yeah, wow, that's a really good story. I think we've got to wrap it up now. I've got an early start, and plus we've probably been talking for over an hour now. How long we?
Hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah, there you go. We could probably go
we
even
can go
longer.
for like, we go at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Could you summarize, like, let's just look at, I think what's been really powerful is like the leadership stuff from you, and like, you know, so, because overall, even the martial arts stuff links into leadership, in my opinion, from what you've said.
100%.
So can you summarize for the guys listening and the guys watching today, you know, your overall opinions on this? So just summarize what we've spoken about today.
Yeah, you know, I think good leaders aren't born. I think good leaders can be made, and I think I've sort of proven that because I wasn't a good leader, and I think leadership to me is about people, right? And we've got a saying in our business, and it is that managers are managers of process and leaders are leaders of people, right? So, and what that means is that anyone can manage a process or a
like a
step,
system,
a system, right? And that's easy to do. You can train a monkey to do that, right? But there are a few good leaders out there who really inspire people, who want to be like you, for example, as a leader. So leadership to me means, what do your people think about you? How do they react about you? What sort of trust have you got between those people, between yourself and those people? And do they aspire to be like you? Because, you know, imitation is, you know, the greatest form of flattery, as they say, right?
Yeah.
If you're my Sifu and I want to be like you, Sifu John, and I practice like you, you know, when I was training in martial arts, I practiced like Bruce Lee. I thought I was Bruce Lee for a time because he was my idol, and he was the guy I wanted. He was the leader for me in martial arts back in the time, right? And probably for you as well, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
So leadership is about the ability to empower, grow, develop, build relationships with others, and not to be afraid that you don't know everything, right? And the gratitude of those people around you as well.
Okay.
And I really think that leadership is underestimated. People want to be great managers. I'm a great manager. I don't care about how great a manager you are. Do the people who work for you like you, and would they want to be like you?
How great a leader are you?
I think in the businesses I've worked in, there are probably people who, you know, have not wanted to be like me. Others who have grown inspiration from how I conduct myself or the processes or whatever I manage and lead through. But I think the thing that's probably I've learned more is that I've developed these sensational, you know, lifelong relationships with people as a leader because I took a genuine interest in them before me. And leadership isn't about you. Leadership is about everyone else around you to help facilitate your own growth as well and theirs.
Yeah, awesome. That's so cool. So some serious great lessons right there, like patience, perseverance, leading by example and in summary, so that you're doing it for the people. There was one other point there. That radical honesty. So we've had a lot of great lessons there. Look, if you guys do have any questions for Darren, just put them in the comments below, either whether on YouTube or Facebook or on the podcast, and then I can throw them back to you. Is there anything last you want to say to the listeners or the viewers?
Man, look, it's actually been a lot of fun, and it's given me an opportunity to sort of think back and draw on some emotions. And I'm an emotional sort of guy. Everyone knows that anyway, good and bad. But I think that the message for me is that, you know, always think big, always challenge yourself, and don't be afraid to put yourself out of your comfort zone, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And that's a lesson I've learned over the last few years, that you know what, it might be easy to do what you're currently doing, and that's great if that satisfies your needs. But I think if you challenge yourself and look from a perspective above yourself, remove yourself from your own bubble, you gain a greater awareness of what's going on, and elevate your thinking to a level that is above where you are now, whatever that might be. If it's in a relationship and you think that you can improve things, maybe put yourself in that person's shoes and elevate yourself to their level of thinking. Awesome. That's something that I sort of live by, is that I don't think like me, I think like the next step.
Yeah, got it. That's awesome. Thanks. Thanks so much for coming today, Darren.
I've enjoyed it, really.
So Darren runs Chatswood Fitness First. If you sounds like the kind of guy you'd like to go and learn something from or go ask questions, they come and see you there. Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can go find him at Fitness First in Chatswood. Just ask for Darren and he'll sort you out. Thanks again, brother Darren. I really appreciate it today.
Thank you so much, man.